Hi, so in this video we're going to be going over indefinite repetition using while loops in Java. So in computer science there are really two fundamental types of repetition: indefinite loops and definite loops. So indefinite loops can also be called event-controlled loops, and basically that means that we just don't know how many times it's going to loop, and it's based on a certain condition that's going to be met. So it can loop once, it can loop a million times, it could also never enter the loop. And basically, until a certain condition gets met, it's just going to continue to repeat over and over again. Then there's also definite loops. Definite loops are also called counter-controlled loops. And that's where you will tell something, okay, loop 10 times, loop 20 times. So you know exactly how many times it's going to loop before the code gets run. So today we're going to focus on while loops, which are indefinite loops. So the syntax of it starts with the word while, and then inside parentheses you have a certain condition. So similar to an if statement, where you would have if and then parenthesis and the condition, but now we have while and then open parenthesis and the condition. So very similar there. And then you're going to open a curly bracket and then put what you want to happen each time that the loop gets run, and then close a curly bracket. Now, you don't really need the curly brackets if you're only putting one statement right after the while, and then parenthesis condition. But if you have more than one statement that you want, or more than one line of code that you want to run inside that loop, then you need curly brackets. So we almost always put them just for clarity. So here's an example of a simple while loop where, say, x is defined somewhere above the while loop. We have while x is less than 10, I want to increment x by 2, and then every single time I increment x by 2, I want to print out x. Now this is really simple, but basically it's going to loop as many times as it takes until x isn't less than 10 anymore. So while x is less than 10, it's going to continue to do what's inside the while loop. So now if x started at like -1,000,000, then this would loop a lot of times, 500,000 times about, because it would take a while for x to increment over 10 if it started at -1,000,000. So now let's do some more involved examples. So the first example we're going to do is to write a method called roll that has a void return and takes no parameters, and it rolls a 6-sided die over and over until you get the number 6. It should print what you roll each time. So let's hop over into BlueJ. And I've already made two classes in BlueJ. The first class is called practice, and that's where all my methods are going to go. And the second class is a runner class, and that's where all my methods are going to get called. Now, the methods that I'm going to make here are going to be static methods, meaning that I don't need an object to be created in order to run them. So we're just going to keep it really simple here. And you can see up here that there's a Javadoc comment that says exactly what we want our method to do. So we want our method roll a 6-sided die, and we want to keep rolling it until we get the number 6. So let's first start by just rolling a die. So in order to do that, I'm going to make an integer value called roll value, and I'm going to set that equal to a random number between 1 and 6. So in order to do that, first I'm going to use Math.random. And we know that this gives us a value between 0 and 0.9999, right? So in order to make this into a value between 1 and 6, that means it's going to have a range of 6. I'm going to have to first start by multiplying it by 6. Then I'm going to have to take that and I'm going to have to cast that entire value into an integer so that now I have an integer value between 0 and 5. Because if I take an integer of 0.999999, right, or 0.999999 times 6, I get 5.9999999. So that's going to round down to 5. So then, because this is only between 0 and 5, now I need to add 1 to the very end of it to boost it so that it's now between 1 and 6. So that's going to be my integer roll value. And then let's print it out. System.out.println. You rolled a roll value. Okay, so let's just compile this and see if that works. So in my runner, oh, I forgot quotes here. In my runner, I'm going to call the method by saying, so my class name is practice. So that's the name of the class. So that's how I'm going to call a static method, and then roll, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and semicolon. So, and as I roll this, I see that you rolled a 2. Okay, great. So that's great, but a 2 is not a 6, and I wanted to get a 6. So now I have to go back, and I want to start a while loop. So here I'm going to say while, and we want to continue looping until we get a value of 6. So I'm going to say while roll value is not equal to 6, right? That's when I want to keep looping. So while roll value is not equal to 6, what do I want to do? Well, I first want to set roll value to another random integer between 1 and 6, and then I want to print it out again. And then the only time I'm going to exit out of this loop is if the roll is equal to 6. And if it is, it's just going to stop. Okay, so let's compile this again. Let's run it. And let's see how many times it takes us to roll a 6. So we had a 5, a 2, a 3, a 2, a 5, a 2, and then we got a 6. So it depends on in this case, you only rolled once, but so it depends on each time you run it, what you're going to get. This time I rolled a 3, a 2, and then a 6. And then this time a 3, a 5, a 3, a 5, a 1, and a 6. Okay? All right, so now let's look at the next method. So the next method is a little bit more complicated. And this method is going to help you on your coding bat problems tomorrow. That's going to be your homework for tomorrow night. So you may want to pay special attention to this and take good notes because it will help you for tomorrow. So it says here, write a method called make hashtag that has a void return and takes one string parameter, sentence. So the method will print the original sentence, but with all spaces removed and a hashtag in front. Okay, so basically, I want to find where the space is. So if I have a sentence like, I love cats, right? Then if you want to make that a hashtag, it can't have any spaces in it. So first, I need to find the space. So in order to find the space, I'm going to make a new variable called index. And that's going to be the value of where the space starts. So how do I find where the space starts? I'm going to use the method index of. So I'm going to say sentence dot index of space. Okay, so now after that, I want to take out that space. So if there are no spaces, then I don't need to do anything, right? And I can just print whatever. But while there are spaces in my sentence, I need to do something. So how am I going to check to see if there are currently spaces in my sentence? Well, I'm going to say something like index is not equal to. So what would it not be equal to if there was a space in my sentence? It would not be equal to -1. So while the index isn't -1, that means that there is a space somewhere in my sentence. Okay, so now I want to change my sentence to start to remove the spaces in it. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to first take my sentence and take only the substring value between the very beginning, so 0, up until I find the first space, so index. Now it's going to start at 0, including 0, and then it's going to go to index, but not including that index. Then I'm going to add it to sentence.substring. And then I want to go from 1 past the index, so 1 past where the space is, index, and that's it. So I want to go from there to the end, so I don't need a second argument there. After that, I'm going to change my index to the new value of the next space. So once I take the first space out, then I want to check to see if there's another space in there. So I'm going to reset my index value to now sentence.index of the next space. So if there isn't any more spaces there, then index gets changed. And once index gets changed, then this while loop gets exited out of. So basically here, if index isn't -1, then this gets executed. After this gets executed, we want to reset index. If we don't reset index, then index will never change, and then this will forever loop over and over and over again. So inside the body of our while loop, we need to redefine index so that at some point, index is going to get us out of this while loop. Okay, so we're resetting it to sentence.index of space, and then now that we have that, then it's going to get reset to where the next space is, and then it's going to take the current sentence and give you a substring there. Now, at the very end, I'm going to system.out.print ln. I'm going to concatenate a hashtag plus sentence. And let's see if that gives us what we want. So let's go into our runner, and I'm going to delete practice.roll, and I'm going to do practice.make hashtag. And let's try the sentence. The cats are all cool. And a smiley face. Okay, so when I run this, I should make the sentence, the cats are all cool with a smiley face, into a hashtag. So let's run. and it gives us hashtag the cats are all cool with no spaces. So we did exactly what we need to do in this method. So let's go back and just review. So we have a static method here called make hashtag. It takes a sentence. We start by initializing a new variable called index, which takes an index, finds the index of the first space. Then it's going to continue to loop through your sentence and remake your sentence by removing the space, the first space that it finds. Then it's going to find the next space, which goes right here, find the next space, and then it's going to go back into the while loop, and then it's going to remove that space, and then it's going to find the next space, and it's going to go back into the while loop, and it's going to remove the next space, and then find the next space. At the very end, after the while loop is printed, that's when the sentence is going to be reprinted with a hashtag. And then in the method above here, we're rolling a random die, and we're waiting until we get the value of 6. Notice that this while loop doesn't always loop the same amount of times. It depends on what that random value is at first and then what it keeps being. And that's it for our examples. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in class tomorrow, and then we get to do a project with it.